came to 10th Street, and trucking is its own beast. What's one of the first things that stood out to you that was surprising with the way that trucking applies technology versus some of your past experiences?
So I've worked in HR tech before, right? Monster.com, other things. It was the amount of data and the amount of process and steps that it takes to hire a driver. And it's not just the volume of that and what happens, but a lot of the dynamics are much different than hiring in other markets. And those changes, which I'm still seeing, are different. And, there's, two categories in the world of hiring that have been, from when I started to right now, have always been active, and that's nursing and truck drivers.
Well, and the reason I wanted to ask you that is because I look at things from a lens of not just trucking, because it gives you some contrast. Because if you've only looked at some of these processes that we have in trucking through the lens of trucking, you don't really find any areas of innovation or creativity that you can possibly make things better. So when you start to compare it to other industries, you start to realize how different our hiring process is, how extravagant it is in some regards, and how nuanced it is. There's a lot of redundancies. There's a lot of layers that someone from outside of trucking that might be hiring healthcare or might be hiring, warehousing, they don't experience some of the bottlenecks that we do here. You start talking about our hiring funnel to people from outside of trucking, and you're like, yeah, you start with like a couple thousand names and you might get 10 hires. And they're like, what? They get very confused. And then when you start talking about how important that data is and metric following and evaluating those analytics is and understanding those analytics, people start to lose you. They're like, what do you mean you have to pay attention to all that? Like, we just, go here, post a job, and if they meet the criteria, we hire them. I'm like, no, there's so many nuances to how this is done. It really starts to show why systems like yours are so important to the infrastructure of a successful recruiting department in today's world.